All right, so where are your burrs?
Oh,
Are they
sorry.
hiding around in here? Or?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to look along the central groove. Ooh, hear that sound?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like the burr's wobbling a little bit, but we'll see. So we're going to do the isthmus. We're going to get to the pit. We're going to go a little bit beyond the pit. Are we doing amalgam or composite?
Amalgam.
Okay. So now we're going to lean the burr a little bit toward the oblique ridge. We're going to come up the facial groove. Come back this way. Now let's go right to the middle of the contact. Once we're happy with the isthmus, now for amalgam we're going to make the isthmus a little wider, at least 1 millimeter, so pretty close to that. Then we're going to go right to the middle of the contact, as we always do. Same level, right to the middle of the contact, right there. Then what do? We find the margins. We go facially and lingually. Trial and error until you get the clearance. Let's go a little farther. And then let's cut straight in. In this case, we'll do a 90-degree angle from the margin straight in. Trial and error. Keep adjusting it until we're happy. It's a little bit obtuse, so let's change it a little bit. Get a little bit closer to 90. So once we get the margin and the angle, then we get the length, then we make the curve to join the isthmus. Then on that side, we're pretty much ready to go gingerly because it's easy to see where to put the corner. Now let's do the same thing on the lingual side. Same pulpal floor position, all the way to a point where we know we're going to have clearance. A little farther. And again, I'm looking so I can see how close I am to the adjacent tooth at all times. Then I'll cut straight in from there. And again, we'll adjust the angle until it's whatever we want. That's a little bit obtuse, so let's change it until it's 90. So we cut from the margin inward. So the margin stays where it is. There's no reason for the margin to move. But we just trial and error, keep working on it until we get the angle that we want. Okay, almost there. So get the margin, get the angle, get the length. Then make the curve to join the isthmus. Okay. Now we're ready to go gingerly. Oh, that's right. We have to use the 245 again, huh? Okay, so we're going to go gingerly. So I'll put the burr where I want it axially. Drill a hole. So that shouldn't happen. That gives us a bigger hole than the burr is. If we're putting a little bit too much torque on here, it's wobbling. But the axial is probably going to be okay. Now we're going to get rid of the excess. Again, once we get well-defined internal line angles, look this way so I can see exactly how close my burr is to the adjacent tooth when I get rid of the excess. Do the same thing on the lingual side. Look this way so I know how close I am to the adjacent tooth when the burr gets to the margin. I see exactly how close I am by looking through that little space. Then I get rid of the excess in the middle. Looking parallel to the contact, downward at a 45-degree angle. That's so thin that should probably just flake away a little bit, but obviously we have to go farther gingerly, so I don't need to even worry about getting rid of that last little bit. So now I'm going to use the same corners and go gingerly a little bit more. Steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's get a little closer to this lingual wall right here. And then we're going to get rid of the excess. Okay, so I'm going to look this way again. Get rid of the excess along the facial wall. Look this way again. Get rid of the excess along the lingual wall. Everywhere we're getting close to the adjacent tooth, you have to see exactly how close you are to the adjacent tooth. No substitute for that. So I'm leaning the burr a little bit this way so I can get as close as possible to the adjacent tooth and get as close as possible to the gingival margin now. Okay, so this burr always leaves that little hook at the gingival margin. If we were to get rid of the excess at the gingival margin, I think we might have enough clearance, especially after we angle the gingival floor. So I'm going to switch back to the 330 burr. As we've done before, now we can use the 330 burr and get closer to the adjacent tooth, get closer to the gingival margin. But again, we've got to be looking exactly this direction so you see how close you are to the adjacent tooth. Just trying to get rid of some of the excess that the 245 burr left. Okay, and maybe when we use the GMT, we'll get a reasonable clearance. We can certainly try that. Anytime we want, we could refine line angles a little bit, stuff like that. Okay, so let's try the hand instruments and see how we end up. So this is the upper right, so you have the hoe. So we can use the hoe on the facial and the lingual. So let's look down the facial wall in the mirror. We always look down the walls in the mirror when we're using the hand instrument. So whether it's upper arch or lower arch doesn't make any difference. So down the margin, so we get rid of any hook that we might have there. Make sure you see that the instrument's perpendicular to the surface when you come down that margin. Then you can sharpen the internal line angle equally well. Use the other end of the instrument, come down the margin, make sure you trim off any hook that might be there. All the way down to the gingival, sharpen the internal line angle. Again, make sure your instrument's always perpendicular to the outside surface. Okay, now the enamel hatchet. You have that handy? Is it here? Nope.
Over here.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we have the enamel hatchet against the axial wall, come down the same corner. Sharpen the line angle, both in the facial and the lingual. Got a little step partway down that axial wall, not a big deal though. But let's sharpen, let's make sure you have a nice sharp corner all the way down to the gingival floor. Then lean the instrument away from the wall and use the upper corner to cut a retentive groove in the facial lingual walls. If the axial wall is in the right place, then put the retentive groove right at the axial wall, into the facial, into the lingual. But again, lean the instrument away from the wall when you're making the groove with the upper corner of the instrument. Okay, and the mesial GMT. So now we're going to scrape off the excess gingivally. We've gotten rid of as much as we could with the 330 burr. So now we're going to angle the gingival floor to get rid of any undermined enamel that we would have down there. Let's blow the excess off here. So we'd like to get a nice clean margin as much as we can. Scrape toward the lingual, all the way to the lingual wall. Scrape toward the buccal, all the way to the buccal wall. Okay, so that margin's starting to smooth out a little bit now. We have a reasonable clearance. And of course we can also use this instrument for beveling the axial pulpal line angle, or you can use the end of a straight fissure burr for doing that. That works quite easily as well. Okay, oops. So okay, so I've just cleaned up some of that debris that was at the gingival margin. There's a little step still at the gingival part of the facial wall, so you might want to use the hoe a little bit more for that. So let's turn the patient a little bit to the left, right down all the way to the gingival floor. Again, when we have a straight fissure burr, it's a lot easier to get these walls flat. With the round-ended burrs, it's a little bit trickier, and so the hand instrument comes into play a little bit more, but you have to be very cautious. Okay, that's about what we're looking for.